Good morning and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. 459,624 vote exactly decided. Karol Nawrocki was ahead of his centrist rival Rafał Trzaskowski, according to late exit polls released after voting ended Sunday late evening, leading by 50.89% to 49.11%. Poland is closely monitoring the preliminary results of the presidential elections, but the result is clear. On the wake of the vote, significant questions emerge about the legal and constitutional ramifications of this electoral call. We are now joined by Professor Lech Garlicki, a distinguished expert on the Polish Constitutional Tribunal and the European Court of Human Rights, to discuss the latest and crucial issues. Good morning, Professor, and thank you for being with us this very morning on the wake of the Polish presidential elections.
Good morning, it's a pleasure.
Professor, what it means for the rule of law, impact on law enforcement, and what is your assessment basically of what has happened yesterday, of the recent presidential election results in Poland?
Well, we will see what will it mean. A lot of question marks. It's probably not very easy to be particularly optimistic in this situation, but this may be just a subjective assessment resulting from my political preferences. What is quite interesting, this election, or the result of this election, was almost identical comparing to the result of presidential elections in 2020. Also, in 2020, the difference between two candidates was like 400,000 votes. Relatively modest percentage, but still, this is 400,000, almost. The only possible comment at this stage is that the democracy has shown its face, that in a procedure which by no means was a fair and democratic one, more fair and more democratic in 2020, this the result which would determine the shape of Polish presidency within the next 5 years, and to some extent will also contribute to a quite important extent to the shape of the Polish political scene and probably development of Polish constitutional practice.
Exactly. So on this practice and on this experience, I would like to elaborate. So let's explain to our international viewers, foreign viewers, who do not know what exactly are the powers in Poland here, regarding also the power of the president. What are the key constitutional powers of the president in Poland generally, and in shaping of halting judicial reforms?
Well, generally, this is a model which is sometimes called rationalized parliamentary, constructed around the system of rewards and punishments. The parliament is rewarded for being able to create a majority. In the first place, is rewarded in the sense that once there is a majority in the parliament is has practically unlimited discretion to decide the composition of the minister. On the other hand, if this majority is larger, like 3/5 or 2/3, then the parliament begins to enjoy almost unlimited power within the political branches of government. It can adopt laws, but the laws can be voted by the President of the Republic, but if there is 3/5 majority, the parliament can override. Majority, then the parliament can change the constitution, and which of course is an ultimate power, even if sometimes it is also necessary to conduct a referendum. So, in other words, the position of the president depends on the balance of majority and minority votes in the parliament. If there is a weak or non-majority, then the president has very wide of parliament if there is no majority at all, or including a possibility to veto legislation if there is a majority, but not strong enough to override the veto. And this was the case between 2023 and today, that the new parliamentary majority, the liberal majority, still was in a nation because any legislation required consent of the president. The president could apply veto right since the majority was not strong enough to override it. And most probably this is the situation also after yesterday's elections, as long as the political composition of the parliament, as it is now, the president will be able to this particular law. I decide to apply my veto rights. Why? Because this is my political opinion. This is not necessary to show that this law is illegal or unconstitutional. Simply the president may say, I do not think this is a law which is necessary for the good of the country or for the good of my political orientation. There is another important instrument, submit a request to the Constitutional Court or Constitutional Tribunal to decide whether the law already adopted by the Parliament but not yet approved by the President is constitutional. Again, the Constitutional Tribunal has a power to decide if it is unconstitutional, then the President has an obligation to refuse to approve the law. Well, it is relatively unproblematic in a situation when the Constitutional Tribunal is politically separated and completely independent from one or another political orientation. Once, however, the Constitutional Tribunal feels loyal to one of the political orientations, then this may be enough to control or to practically suppress the actions of the Parliament.
Professor,
on top of this, President, yes.
Just a word of apologies to our viewers because the connection is not very good, so we are experiencing some technical problems. But at the same time, a word of explanation as well. We are just watching the pictures from late night yesterday, and the initial reactions in Rafał Trzaskowski's surrounding. Indeed, it was quite a night. We've observed simply a reverse situation, completely different from what has been initiated in the first place. So in such a polarized society, how crucial is it for the Supreme Court also to certify the results? And what risks do you foresee in terms of public trust?
Well, I think that practically speaking, unless there are some factual situations we do not know, which could really challenge the validity of these elections, but this is highly improbable. I would say with the result as we have it, we should rather expect that once the National Electoral Committee confirms the results of the election by this chamber of extraordinary control and public affairs of the Supreme Court. This might have been different had the results of the elections were different, because as we know, the status of this particular chamber of the Supreme Court is problematic, and there are several opinions, including the human rights and the European Court of Justice of the European Union, that this chamber of the Supreme Court does not meet the requirements of an independent and, let's say, genuine court. So, would this chamber of the Supreme Court challenge the validity of an election, then there would be a very serious feel or regard this position as a judicial verdict. But this, again, this will not be the case in this situation. So there is one very complicated trap, which probably will not be addressed within the near future.
As you rightly pointed out, in the last election, the margin was also very, very thin. So could this close result lead to a broader constitutional crisis, in your opinion? And also with such a disposition of the president and the government?
The government is in a complicated situation, of course, and one can assume that the Prime Minister may submit to the Parliament a request of a vote of confidence, of confirmation, that still supporting the existing government. This probably would be given by the existing coalition or by the existing parliamentary majority. But for the future, the situation is difficult. Until yesterday, the position of the or strategy of the government as far as reforms correcting had been legislated within the last two periods of parliament be revoked. Well, this was not accepted by the president, this was not accepted by the constitutional court, so the idea was, let's wait until this election, we should win this election, and then we adopt all necessary laws without particular problems. Now it is no longer possible, at least an easy task, meaning the Prime Minister and the majority, the parliamentary majority, will have to try to find some modus vivendi with the president. It should not be this pattern of, let's say, hostile cohabitation, as in case of former president. Still, hopefully this will be possible to elaborate some more reasonable pattern of relations. But this is all very difficult to foresee. It also depends what is the political agenda of the new president and how the new president will see his role, more looking for some compromise, cooperation, political arbitration.
Exactly. Times are such, Professor, that hostile cohabitation is absolutely out of the question right now for Poland. So So much for now, but we will see how this develops, how this situation unfolds. Professor Lech Garlicki, a distinguished expert on Polish Constitutional Tribunal and European Court of Human Rights. The University of Warsaw was our guest this morning. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned to TVP World for more commentaries and news.